Hey guys, SickMotion here with the patch 7.12 notes. I'm still using this mic that's not my normal mic, so it might sound off a little again. And one other note I'll make before, normally I would say it at the end of the video, stuff like this, but in case you don't make it to the end of the video, I'm currently testing out new stream times. So if you were unable to watch the stream at my old times where I'd basically start around 10 p.m. Pacific and stream through the night for North America, whatever time zone that ended up working out to for wherever you are. I'm now testing out new times going through the day for most of them, for North America at least. I've heard the times line up with most of Europe as well, pretty well. There's more information on that on my Facebook page though, if you want to go check that. It's on the pinned post over there. So currently testing that, probably be testing it for another week or two here before we decide if we're going to continue going with that or if we're going to have to make some more adjustments. Just wanted to get that out of the way. But anyway, here's the patch. One thing with the new times is I didn't get a chance to play on the PB last night when this patch went live for when NA goes down. I used to do that because I'd be streaming during the time that it went down through the night. So I'm not going to be able to play if I keep these times on the PB as much, so I might not have as much experience with the stuff on the patch, but I don't think that's going to be much of a big deal. Anyway though, first champion here, Camille, kind of actually coincidental. I haven't played Camille. She got nerfed like 100 times in 100 ways over the past couple months. I haven't played Camille in probably a month or two here, and I actually started playing her more recently before this buff, not knowing this buff was coming out, and I think I was 6-0 or 6-1 on her in the past week, so kind of interesting that she's getting buffed. That's kind of cool because I'll probably still play her a little bit more. Basically her passive that gives her the shield when she autos a champion based on what its main damage is. It's down at early levels a lot. It's down by 4 seconds, 2 seconds at mid, and I don't actually know what level that scales at. And then 10 seconds still at the max level, and the delayed second hit damage is now back to 200% down from, or up from 180%. That was originally nerfed. Keep in mind that 200% can be converted to true damage since it's the second hit, so that actually is quite a bit of damage if you do it properly and look at it properly. She got nerfed so many times, losing the attack speed on her dash if you don't hit the champion, the heal on her W only applying to champions, the slow on her W being lower and then decaying. There's been so many things. I think she got an ult duration and some other ult stuff tweaked, so she's been nerfed a bajillion times, so bringing her back up for like a little bit of a correction is not the end of the world, and she's still really fun to play. Corki, some interesting changes. His basic attack speed up slightly, basic attack damage up slightly, but rather than being a 50-50 split on his passive, it's now a 20-80 split in the favor of magic damage. So now his auto attacks do 80% magic damage. There's a lot of unique interactions with that because since it's auto attack damage, it still applies lifesteal, it'll still apply Trinity Force, but it'll apply your Trinity Force as most like part magic. Like there's a lot of like weird interactions with it. It's actually pretty interesting. They're saying they're tailoring it to be able to be playing him bot lane, but more of a magic damage focus. I think this is going to make him play mid a lot as well. I don't think that's going to make the different switch to bot lane more over mid lane more apparent, but interesting change. Kind of cool to see how that goes. You can now buffer your R and your Q while Valkyrie on Corki as well. Ivern's damage on his shield is down, base damage by 10 per level, so up to 50 at max level. That's actually quite a bit, but it's not really the damage that was making him exceedingly broken, annoying to play against. It was more of the utility, and he didn't lose that utility, so he's still going to be annoying to play against. Really excited for this buff. I said something about this quite a while back now, I think, that why does Nasus get range on his Q? And like other champions get range on abilities that are auto attack resets, and Jax doesn't. Jax's auto attack range is already really low. I think it's 125, and other champions, like even like I think Fiora is like 150 if I'm not mistaken. All I know is that I actually didn't realize that there was like a 25 attack range difference in some of the melee champions like that. Like Darius has longer range, champions like that that came out have longer range. But Jax actually just has like such a short auto attack range that it becomes really apparent when you're trying to attack people that are near minions, and you have to skirt around the minions like 10 times just to try and get an auto attack off, and by that time you've already tanked like half the minion wave, and gets really inefficient that way. So he gains 50 extra attack range when using his W if he's using it on as an auto attack. You can apply that damage to your Q. It's not going to do anything as far as range there, but it will gain 50 extra range if you use it as an auto attack or an auto attack reset. But you can just walk up, and if they're out of range of your normal auto attack, but you can hit them with a W, you can still kind of hit them with that. You don't have to go for the auto attack reset. You can still get a decent trade in just by hitting them with the W. Really excited for that change. It'll make the playstyle, it'll make them a lot stronger if you know what you're doing, but it'll also just make the playstyle feel a lot less frustrating around minion waves, because the minion blocking is one of the most annoying things. Jin's base damage on his Q is down a little bit, but that's because the total AD ratio is up and the base damage on his R is up, so they're giving him back a little bit more of his scaling and his damage, because he hasn't been being played nearly as much as when he was every single game. Karma's shield is, the base is down at later levels, as well as the primary shield target for all of your secondary shield targets is now calculating off 30% rather than 50. So all of, like, the group shield from her mantra is lower now. They say it's in preparation of some item changes that we'll go over later. Kindred, 3 attack damage base buff there. That's really huge right there. Base stats getting 3 AD alone. Some mana cost reductions to make it easier to feel like you're going to actually have mana to cast your spells. And the Wolf's Frenzy. The zone doesn't begin counting down until it actually lands. Now that it's not a self-cast, now that you can cast it at a range, has a travel, until it is actually active, it's not counting towards the duration that it'll be active for, so you're kind of getting scammed on a little bit of that time. You're not getting that anymore, but if you do cast your Q while it's traveling and it's not actually active yet, you'll still get that reduction, so you don't have to kind of play around that. Malzahar getting some base damage nerfs on his Q and his R, and a little bit of AP ratio nerf now that I guess they've got him back to mid lane where they wanted him with that huge change last patch that was kind of just hard to go over. Rakan's shields weren't benefiting from any type of shield buffing, and now they are. Rek'Sai, I didn't actually realize this. I didn't see her played in game that much, actually. I was expecting to see a lot more, but haven't seen like any Rek'Sai. You could just simply sidestep the ult. I didn't realize that you could actually dodge the damage, but you could simply sidestep it and it wouldn't actually end up doing damage. So that's a lot harder to do. Base damage up, armor growth stats up, and the bonus attack damage when you're unburrowing has also been doubled, so some buffs there. And that's bonus attack damage, so that's not just on base. So you have to actually build AD for that ratio to matter. Pretty weird changes to Rumble here, not just because it's shifting power and cooldowns and like ratios or anything. It's actually shifting the entire mechanics and the flow of the character that everyone's been used to for so long. Your heat decay for your passive, for if you're overheating or trying to stay in the danger zone, was 4 if you used your Flame Spitter, 3 if you used anything else. Now it's 4 for everything. That's a little bit less impactful. But the heat decay rate is, rather than every half second, it's every 1 second. And rather than 5 for 5 ticks and then 10 per tick, it's just 10 per tick right off the start. So you can, your heat will drop off a lot faster, so you're gonna have to manage it a little bit differently to keep it in the danger zone, but you'll also be able to cast your spells quicker after using them because you're not gonna overheat if you weren't looking to overheat. It's gonna be messy to kind of get used to the news. It's hard to really say how it's gonna feel. It's gonna be messy. The Flame Spitter damage to minions is down, but the base damage is up quite a bit at early levels, so that kind of will balance out. The AP ratio is also up by 0.1. However, it now has a cooldown that goes down to where it was at level 5. It's going to be what you're leveling first anyway, so that cooldown is not going to matter too much once the game gets going, but it's 10 at level 1. However, that 10 at level 1 is... sorry. The 10 at level 1, actually, you'll be able to do more damage to champions because you have a higher base damage early on. You won't be able to use it as often, but when you do use it, it'll be more meaningful. The one thing I'm wondering is how that's going to line up with, you can keep spam casting your Q when you start the game, to get yourself into the danger zone, so that your Q is doing more damage at level 1. But with the new heat changes, as well as that cooldown going way up, I don't think you're going to be able to do that anymore. I haven't tested it though, so I'm not sure. The scrap shield, the shield is up, so it's a well-timed shield is going to be more rewarded now. However, it is down by half a second, so 25% of the shield duration is down, as well as that movement. I don't think the movement speed lasted the whole shield. I don't know. I just woke up here with my new times. I'm kind of all over the map right now, so it's my apologies. But yeah, the shield base is up at 30 at any level, and the electro harpoon damage is also up by 15 at any level, and the slow is now increased by 4% at max rank. I didn't actually realize that. It goes up by 10% per level, and then at max level it only goes up by 6%. It's because it's 2/3, I guess, is what the idea was, but it's just kind of weird to look at it from that perspective. So he's got some power shifted. Overall, it's less about the power shifting and more about the flow of the champion being completely different than how it used to feel. Depending on how many, maybe I'll get off a little easier on it, because I enjoy playing Rumble, but I don't play him nearly enough. That every time I do go play him, I'm like super rusty and like don't have the feel for him. Maybe I'll get benefited by that, by I'm not actually stuck into thinking the way the flow of the character was before. But people who have played a lot of Rumble might have a lot of trouble with that adjusting. Zaya's just nerfed, thankfully. Cooldown on W is up, and you can no longer auto attack while casting your Q, so you don't get a bunch of free feathers down. Zach's also been nerfed. His damage on his W, that'll hurt his clear a lot, as well as his dueling damage, obviously. Damage on the W is down. Damage on the slingshot is down. It's more about, I don't even know. It's more about the cooldowns, it feels like. It's more about the CC duration. You're going to get off a lot of damage, and your team's going to do a lot of damage if you're just able to CC them. I guess that's for his dueling power, which kind of felt strong, but it's more about his kit and just what it does in general. This change right here, Heimerdinger and Zyra pet targeting, I think this is what I was experiencing. I didn't actually do the patch for when Heimerdinger got changed. That's the one patch video that didn't end up working out. The video broke, and I didn't end up redoing it. It says that it's not supposed to auto-target melee champions when they get into range of the turret. It's supposed to just kind of target what's closest to it. I mean, if you're closest to it, you would expect to be targeted by it, but as soon as you would get into range of the turret as a melee champion, it would be shooting you. And it was extremely frustrating to lane against, and I was like, well, this is broken. It's not at all what they said. Maybe they didn't mean to say that at all. Maybe they meant it backwards, that it's going to target melee champions even harder, or any champion for that matter, but you feel it more on a melee because you can't really attack from out of range of the turret. The minions are in the turret range. What was ending up happening, I'm guessing, based on this, is that if it works for Zyra as well, but we'll talk about Heimer. If he auto-attacks a target, then the turrets will also focus the target that he attacked. However, the attack didn't have to go off, so you could attack it and start walking at it with the intent to attack it, but not ever actually get in range, cancel your auto-attack before you even start the animation, and the turrets would register that you attacked that person, and for the duration of that turret, it would only be shooting that person if they got into range. Now that makes sense to what I was experiencing, if that's actually what was happening, but holy hell, that was frustrating. So I'm really glad that's hopefully changed. Maybe not, but hopefully. A lot of item changes here. A lot of items that will affect tank champions as well as his support item changes right here. I mean, I guess that's for that. I'm just not even going to go over that. Locket of the Iron Solari. I'm really excited for this change, actually, after reading it. The shield base is down by 230 at level 18. However, it now also has a scaling bonus health ratio based on the caster's health. So it doesn't matter what the health, like if you're getting scaling bonus health on you cast it on an 80 carry, obviously that's going to be like 0. But say you're like a super tanky champion, say you're like Mundo, Zach, like anybody, even like Sion, like I build like 1 or 2 health items on Sion, but you're scaling health from your W. A lot of the times I'll be having like 3.5k health in like a longer game with 2 health items on a tank champion. Imagine just having 2k bonus health, because it scales off the bonus health, not the total. 36% of 2k bonus health is 720. That's 720. The old shield was 665. So just off your bonus health, the shield's going to be bigger, but then you still have the base health of, or the base shield of 434. So like really, really tanky champions that get like 3k bonus health, you're going to be getting a shield that's well over 1,000 from the bonus health ratio, and then adding on that 434. And that's an AoE shield as well, so keep in mind, like, a huge AoE team fight goes off and your team's like super screwed, and you push that button and everyone just gets a shield for like 1,200, 1,500 health, whatever it ends up being. That's gonna be such a staple item because it's so damn cheap too. So I'm really excited about that. You feel a lot better building it after building all these other items, and like building that as your 6th item now that it actually scales with health. That's gonna be great. Redemption, got some changes here. Lower health regen, higher mana regen. The heal is also lower as well, but it is affected 3 times as much by healed and shield power amplifiers. So if you're not building a shield or a heal power amplifier, you're not going to get as much out of that heal. But if you have like the mastery, or you have like a forbidden idol item, you're going to get a lot more healing out of this. So it's going to be less about, like, a lot of times I'd actually end up building this on a tank as like a 6th item if I didn't know what I actually wanted and we didn't have one on the team. But now it's not going to be nearly as effective if you're not building it, actually dedicating yourself to having the active be useful. I mean, you'll still be able to do it, but it just won't be the greatest. Zeke's, this is kind of interesting. This is like a really weird kind of mess up everything change. Zeke's, we'll skip down all of the stuff here and go over as quickly as we can. No longer builds out of Amp Tomb, still builds out of a Glacial Shroud, but it builds out of an Aegis now. Same build path as Banner of Command, which has also been changed. That's not the Banner of Command build path anymore. So this is the only item that builds out of an Aegis and Glacial. No longer grants ability power because it doesn't have ability power in the build. It gives 30 more armor, so it's 60 armor, 30 magic resistance. This is much better, more focused at like a tanky frontline. The AP on it often felt out of place, honestly. And then like I build it on like support Scion, and I have 50 AP, and it's just like, woo, I don't actually need that. So what ends up happening now is you no longer get the bond where it builds stacks and you get crit from it, but casting your ultimate near an ally surrounds you with frost storms and ignites your ally's basic attack for 10 seconds. This is the ally that you've linked to, not just any ally. It's a 45-second cooldown, so you can't just build it on like Cassidon and just keep casting it over and over. Enemies inside your frost storm are slowed by 20%, so you have to have just like a permanent 20% slow around you, and your ally's attacks burn the target for 50% bonus magic damage over 2 seconds. So if your ally attacks while their attacks are ignited, they do 50% bonus magic damage, however much damage they did over 2 seconds. So you kind of have like a Deathfire on crack that scales amazingly. Deathfire Touch, not the old Deathfire Grasp. Rest in peace. Basic attacking a burning enemy. So this is where it kind of gets confusing. You have the Froststorm Cloud that's slowing everybody. Only slowing, not doing damage yet. Your enemy attacks are now, or your allies' attacks are now on fire. So now if you attack anybody that's already been burned by your ally within that 2-second window that you have, and on a tank champion that's kind of hard because you might be a melee champion with shitty attack speed, but you manage to get that off, it now ignites your Frost Storm to deal 40 magic damage per second. So it's kind of like the old Sunfire as far as dueling potential, except it's not dueling potential because you need your ally to be doing this all with you. It now ignites your Frost Storm and increases the slow to 40% for 3 seconds and does 40 magic damage per second in that time as well. So a lot of shit going on at the same time. Pretty cool to see that actually working out. I'm imagining that's going to be much more powerful with champions that build a Hurricane to be giving you a lot of targets to auto attack for that chance to ignite the storm type thing. But yeah, it's going to be a lot stronger on Hurricane champions because you're just going to be applying it to everyone. It's kind of like you're applying a dragon buff every time you auto attack, but it's not true damage. It's going to be just magic damage. So really interesting. It's really gonna. It's so different that it's really gonna. It could be complete shit. It could be way too broken. You're gonna have to test it to find out. Athene's lower AP, higher base mana regen, lower CDR. It's now scales off 20%, 25% of your pre-mitigation damage to champions rather than 20, and it grants 5 ability power for every 25% base mana regen you have. So other items that you kind of just look over the base mana regen that they give you, this will scale with it, so that for every 100% base mana regen they give you, you actually get 20 AP, so you get an amp tomb out of it. So it's kind of like poverty death cap in a way. It no longer grants the 25 base health regen for 25 base mana regen. That was kind of overlooked a lot of the time anyway, honestly, in my opinion. It's kind of a weird shake-up to it. Kind of cool how you kind of can get like poverty bits of it AP for the magic or the mana regen. The cooldown reduction is lower and the ability power is lower, but you'll be getting more ability power over time. It builds up, it ramps up faster. The cooldown reduction being lower is probably not going to matter too much because you probably were overcapping your CDR anyway with it being that high with all the other items that you want to be building. Banner of Command, so this is what I was talking about, now builds out of a Raptors Cloak and an Aegis rather than a Raptor, or a Aegis and a Glacial, so it no longer gives mana. It looks like it still gives cooldown reduction, because it's not saying it removed the cooldown reduction that you were getting out of the Glacial Shroud portion. So none of those build out of cooldown reduction, or have cooldown reduction from what it builds out of, but it looks like you're still getting 10% CDR, so I don't know for sure, I didn't check. It now gives base health regen because of the Raptors Cloak. The Raptors Cloak has been changed as well later on here. It would have been a lot easier to see the components being changed before seeing all of the items that they build into being changed, but I'm just going through it in the way that it's given to me. So you get the Point Runner passive for having the Raptors Cloak now. A lot of times if you're building like a full like siege kind of thing, you'd have a banner and then you'd have a Zrot portal as well. So now there's going to be double stacking this passive and make it less efficient. So I don't really like that part out of it. I also built banner on Scion sometimes for like if I was against like a super AP heavy comp, or I was against someone who could just duel me easily but was all magic damage, so then I could fight him in a minion wave, banner a tank minion, CC the dude down, and let the tank minion take him down rather than having to do the damage myself. I haven't been doing that as recently. I've been liking the Iceborne Gauntlet a lot more, so that's not going to affect me too much in that. But the double stacking of the passive with the Zrot portal is going to be kind of rough, I think. Knight's Vow. I like this change a lot. I've been building Knight's Vow on tanky characters quite often lately because you're wanting a health and an armor item on champions like Scion. I don't really care about the movement speed, so I'm not going for the just woke up. Why can't I think of this? The run fast, hit them slow thing. Dead Man's Plate, that one. So you're. I don't really care about the passive of the Dead Man's Plate. I like the stats on it. I wish the Giant's Belt built into a Randuin's. That would make everything so much better. The Randuin's build path, I'm still saying absolutely awful when you have to build 2 ruby crystals on top of the Warden's Mail, and it's probably going to be your 4th or 5th item anyway, unless you're against like a Yasuo or a Tryndamere, because there's just better stuff to buy early, so the build path becomes really awkward and you have to save up a lot of money to buy it, even though it has components that are cheaper, but you just don't have inventory room. But that's just a tangent of this. It builds out of, rather than a Crystalline Bracer, screw that item, we get a Kindle Gem, Chain Vest, and some gold, so now it gives 10% CDR. That might end up overcapping my CDR on a lot of tank champions, honestly. I might end up switching out. My tank rune books that I use usually have like 20% CDR in them, or at least 10%. If I'm building an Iceborne or a Frozen Heart, there's 20% right there. I build a Spectre's Cowl item, another 10% right there. So I'm already at 30% CDR. If I don't build anything else with CDR, this will be great, but if I have more CDR, this might overcap it. Anyway, I don't really care about that base health regen too much. In the cases that this ends up putting your CDR to 40%, that's going to be amazing, way better. It no longer grants that health regen, like I said. The item still does the same thing. It's still the same cost, but adding the cooldown reduction and the more efficient build path. Now you can build a Kindle Gem, and you don't have to build it into a Spirit Visage necessarily on a tank, because that's pretty much the only thing you'd be building it into on like a full tanky character. Now you can build it into this, and that's awesome. I like that there's more diversity in like. A lot of times I don't just build to like build an item start to finish. I'll build components of items for what they give, and then figure out what I need as the game goes on. So that really helps with that type of looking at things. And then the Righteous Glory now builds out of a Glacial Shroud and a Crystalline Bracer. So, fuck Crystalline Bracer, but I mean it always did anyway. So it doesn't build out of a Catalyst anymore, but now it's because it has the Glacial, it gives 30 extra armor, 10% CDR on the Righteous Glory, which is kind of cool, but you're at no... I mean, if you're building the Righteous Glory first item, maybe you are lacking CDR because you're not going for those CDR items first, so having this is nice. Then you're not locked into having to get CDR after this item. The fact that it gives some actual defense now rather than just all health and mana is nice as well. The Slow Nova now automatically triggers when an enemy champion is within close proximity. You can no longer manually trigger it, but I mean, if it auto triggers when you get to a champion, why would you be wanting to manually trigger it before that? Because the only way you'd be able to manually trigger it without it triggering on its own would be if you're just doing it to hit nothing. So I guess there's that. So that's going to be interesting. That'll feel a little bit better on champions that actually need that engage, like Maokai, for example. I mean, Catalyst is amazing on champions like Maokai and lane, but Glacial Shroud is kind of like a staple of a lot of tanks. Pretty much every tank that has mana will build a Glacial Shroud into something, so it's nice to be able to build that Glacial Shroud and build it into a large assortment of things depending on how the game's going, rather than only building a Frozen Gauntlet or an Iceborne Gauntlet or a Frozen Heart every game pretty much. Speaking of Glacial Shroud, it is actually 100 gold cheaper. 5 armor off to get it at 100 gold cheaper. 900 gold for the total thing to give you 10% CDR at the cost of the 5 armor. I like that a lot. I really like that change. The items Iceborne and Frozen Heart are now the combination cost is now 100 more to make the 2700 price point unchanged. So they didn't get buffed in any way, but the Glacial Shroud will get... You can get into it a lot easier, which is nice. When you go back to base with like 910, 920 gold and you really want that CDR, and it'll just feel a lot better. And here's the Raptors Cloak change. No longer builds out of a chain vest and a bead. It builds out of a bead and a cloth armor. It's 300 gold cheaper, 10 armor off. Pretty good value there to get it earlier. The problem I'm seeing here is often, I mean, maybe it'll just position the Raptors Cloak items to be built sooner in the game. But the problem I'm seeing here is you're building a Raptors Cloak later on in the game. You're not going to be wanting a chain vest. Often I'll build a Raptors Cloak later on when I decide that I want to go a Raptors Cloak path, but I've been sitting on a chain vest for a while. Now if you're sitting on a chain vest, you've already said that you don't want to go Raptors Cloak. So chain vest is finding a lot less uses. It doesn't build out into a GA anymore. It doesn't build into a Raptors Cloak anymore for his raw portal. I mean, it got the Stone Plate now. But it's like Stone Plate, Thornmail, Deadman's, and a Knight's Vow. Is there anything else I'm missing? But yeah, I get maybe they're trying to take it away from just build a chain vest and sit on it until you want to buy something else, but kind of makes it feel awkward as far as that whole example of building components and then buying what you need as the game goes on. Talisman of Ascension's cooldown or cost is just down. This is a long time coming. There's a lot of item changes this patch. Sorry, this is going a lot longer than I thought it. Mana when killing minions is now unique. I think it's not unique for just the base mana regen increase, unless that always was unique. I don't know. All I know is that I never really played the champions that stack Doran's Ring, so I don't really care about this. I played against a lot of them, so this will actually help me in the long run. I felt this change was coming for a long time. I'm surprised it didn't get hotfixed or done earlier. Doran's Shield costing 400 rather than 450 and giving you all of that sustain. So now it's 450, so you get one less health potion. Getting a Doran's Shield with 2 health potions and looking at it as your lane opponent, you're like, yeah, well, I guess we just won't fight, because that's just way too much sustain to deal with. Refillable potion got a different icon. So many icons changing lately. Apparently people were getting it mixed up with stuff, so guess what? You got your way. End of game stats. Probably my favorite part of this entire friggin' patch. Added crowd control score, the combined duration of all CC effects you've applied over the game. I'm excited for that. I don't know how it's going to work. I think there is a very large difference between hard CC and soft CC. Like, slowing someone versus knocking them up or stunning them for the same duration. The knock up or stun is far more effective, so I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it. Maybe it's just not one stat. Maybe it's like total slows, total like stuns, total knockups. Like maybe it's all like that would be the better way to do it. I don't know how it's going to be done. All I'm trying to get at is if you're playing like Singed with a Rylai's and you have a very minimal slow on a large portion of the enemy team through most of the game in team fights, and your crowd control score ends up being way higher than like a Scion, or I'm trying to think of someone who just has a ridiculous amount of hard CC, like a Nautilus, but even less. Like a Scion has this huge AoE hard CC. And if you're getting the same credit for like a 5% slow, that's going to be a very skewed, scuffed score. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I'll talk about that more once I probably on stream, once I see what's going on with that. I'm not going to go over any really of that. Less experience to level up by a little bit. And I looked over these bug fixes. There's not too much, other than there was one cool bug here. Where's the one bug that I picked that was cool? Tom Kench can no longer devour a summoned Rift Herald. That's too bad. It's too bad I didn't get to see that happen. And then there's an upcoming event with, where is it here? Missions. They're adding missions, sort of like dailies into League that you complete while playing in your games. They said that they really were looking into it. I briefly skimmed over. I didn't read the whole thing, but making it so that people aren't throwing games or ruining the experience of everyone else just to complete their mission in their game. This is really controversial for me. This could really kind of go either way, so we'll see how that ends up going. And then Yasuo and Riven skin, same patch. I think this is coming with the event. Hoo-wee. Everyone's gonna be excited for that. A lot more Yasuo and Riven in games. That always makes people happy, I know. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Way longer than I expected it to be. I have a little bit more energy, even though I'm kind of spacey, because I just woke up, so it ended up going longer than I expected. But anyway, thank you for watching. Stream, like I said, new stream times. You can check that on my Facebook page, stream link. All my social media links are in the description underneath the video as usual. Haven't had as much time to do YouTube. A large part of this stream time switch is to be able to free up a lot more time during the day, fix my sleep schedule. Long story short, basically, I was sleeping less, and with my old stream schedule, I got less sleep, and I ended up wasting about 2 or 3 extra hours a day just to inefficiency of my schedule, with sleeping during the day and staying up during the night. And anything that I didn't end up getting done that I needed to do ended up cutting into my sleep time, because I just put sleep as the lowest priority, which ended up, I was always sleeping probably like between 3 and 5 hours a day for months, which kind of leaves you as like a shell of a person after a while. So it made it a lot harder for me to put energy and passion into my stream, and put out content that I would want to be putting out. Just the past couple days, I mean, it's the first 2 days, hard to determine from that, but just the past 2 days of streaming at the new times, I feel like a lot more energetic, a lot more optimistic about everything. So it's been a noticeable change just in a couple days here. So I'm hoping the content that I end up putting out is better. But also, tangent from where I was going, I'll have more time to do other things, so maybe I can start putting out more, even if it's just like replays and like clip videos from stream, and maybe go onwards from there. I'll be able to put more time into stuff like YouTube and other things as well, rather than having the stream eat up all my time that I had free. So hopefully, because right now I've just been able to get the patch notes done, and pretty much that's it. But maybe, hopefully coming up here, once I get more stable and solidified with my schedule, and if the schedule does stick, then we'll have more time for YouTube and stuff. But yeah, little bit of a longer outro than I expected. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.